Cult of the Lamb is the hottest indie roguelite on the market right now, and if you're new to the genre or looking to refine your cult leader skills, we've got you covered. Hey there friends, it's Codiak here. Welcome back to Legacy Gaming. Today, I'm sharing everything I wish I knew sooner about Massive Monster's wacky new roguelite, Cult of the Lamb. We're gonna lead with an oldie but a goodie, a tip I've shared in a few different roguelite videos now: smash everything. It's simple but effective at helping you with some important resources like brass, stone, crystals, and more. I'll be honest, I did get a little lazy towards the end as resources were starting to flow pretty heavy, but in the early parts of the game where every scrap matters, this is a big deal. Faster weapons make things more efficient, but any weapon will get the job done. Nearly everything on a map, whether it's a structure, dead body, or something in between, can be smashed to pieces, and while not everything will reward you, enough things will. Moving on to another simple but important tip: if you're a progression-minded person, you need to use fertilizer on your crops, especially crops that are used for food, whenever possible. The bigger your cult, the easier fertilizer is to obtain. More followers means more poop, which ultimately means lots of perfect veggies. Fertilizing your crops increases your yield, and early game, this is a game changer. I promise holding on to all that poop is doing you no good, so spread it around your fields and don't think twice. Eventually, you'll be able to build a fertilizer silo, which your farmers can pull from to spread onto the fields. But if you're still early on in your adventures, you'll need to do the dirty work yourself. I'd also recommend building an outhouse near your farm to cut down on the time it takes to collect the poop and then use it to grow your crops. You might not think it's a big deal, but that extra time running might just be enough to convince you not to make the effort, and that's a huge mistake. Getting wood early on in Cult of the Lamb can be a bit of a challenge. The resources that are available in your base and even at the Pilgrim's Passage zone are not enough to sustain a growing cult, so what do? Well, the first thing is to be on the lookout for wood stops during your dungeon crawl. While this might not be the most sustainable way to collect it, it can be a quick fix to an ever-present early game problem. I'd also recommend building yourself a missionary and sending out your followers on wood runs as soon as possible. Thought of losing a follower is scary, I get it, but running out of wood completely stifles your growth, and followers are almost easier to get than wood at this point in the game. Finally, build yourself some lumber yards. This should be one of the first buildings you unlock because it's essential to your growth. It's easy enough to access in Phase 2 of the early game and provides you with plenty of resources. Heck, throw down 2 or 3 and watch the wood roll in. You'll use it all, trust me. One of the first side areas you unlock in the game is Pilgrim's Passage. Here you can fish for food, but you can also take on a small Lighthouse side mission. The first leg of the journey has you providing the Keepers of the Light with, you guessed it, wood. By completing the first part of the quest, the Keepers will now pray to you, allowing you to scoop up a tiny bit of devotion. 2 small shops will also open up in the area. On one side, selling tarot cards, on the other, decorations. Don't be fooled, your work isn't done. There's actually a part 2 to this quest, which requires you to bring 25 crystals back to the Keepers. These can be found throughout the Anchor Deep dungeon, primarily by smashing the crystals around some of the encounter areas. Bring back 25 to the Keepers, and you'll unlock a new follower form. One of the things the game doesn't do a great job explaining are affixes that can impact specific maps during your dungeon crawling. While moving between zones, you'll notice small icons under some of the map markers. These indicate specific challenges or opportunities within that region. Each affix has one negative component and one positive component. For example, one affix might double gold drops, but all enemies will leave a pool of poison when they die. It's a tit-for-tat relationship that you should factor into your runs because it's not just gold you can scoop up, it can be hearts, food, tarot cards, and more. Beside your weapon and ability, tarot cards are the single most important aspect of your dungeon crawl. As far as I know, every zone has a card reader, and that means every zone has a chance for you to pick up a tarot card plus. These are tarot cards with slightly better properties than their standard counterparts, and in most cases, it's a pretty big deal. 20% instead of 10%, 2 hearts instead of 1, all good things. There's no downside here, just pure power, and that's something everyone can get behind. Speaking of our friend the fortune teller, how about a little trick to know where they're hiding on each map? While there aren't a whole lot of indicators as you move from room to room, one thing you'll notice is that you can always tell where the shops are. It's easy enough, just look above the entranceway between the rooms. If you see hanging stars and moons, you're about to walk into the fortune teller. If you see hanging swords, you're about to run into the item vendor. This might not seem like a big deal, but you're often in a situation where choice matters, and if the options are combat or upgrade, I'm going to choose upgrade every time. I think most players will clear an entire zone before moving on to a new map. They're small enough, but in all honesty, it's just nice to have a bit more control. Before rushing out to fight, it's important to eat your fruits and veggies. In all seriousness, there is a true benefit to eating before you dive into a dungeon. First, you need to unlock the hunger. You can do this by defeating any of the bosses in the game and taking that item that you get and bringing it back to your temple to unlock the effect. By scarfing down a meal, doesn't matter what, you'll actually start the run with an additional armor heart. This is a temporary heart, one that goes away if you get hit, but still one more than you had before. If you're on the cutting edge of progression, this is a big deal, as some of the dungeons can be a bit unpredictable, so going in with an edge really does help. Something you learn early on in the game is to spend a little one-on-one time with your followers, but as your focus shifts to progression, this can often be more tedious than anything else. It may seem like a pain, but going through the motions to praise and extort your followers has a huge upside. By praising followers, you collect devotion, but also level them up, which has some decent benefits. Chief among them, better success rates during missionary trips. As I mentioned before, the missionary is your key to things like wood early on, and if you decide to really lean into the system, you can make a killing. The other action, extortion, comes into the picture a bit later on in the game, but that's because gold only becomes a real factor later on. By extorting your flock as soon as you unlock the action, you can start collecting coins which you'll eventually need to turn into gold bars. All the systems are connected, and it starts with the simple act, praising your followers and extorting them for some coin. Speaking of followers, let's talk about gifts. The best gift you can give a cultist isn't some Kool-Aid, it's actually a necklace. While dungeon crawling, you might run across these items when completing an area. Truth be told, it's easy to forget about them, and unless you jot down a note, it's entirely possible that you collect these but never actually use them. Necklaces are gifts that you can give your followers, and each necklace has a special passive bonus. Necklaces do all sorts of things, like increase move speed, boost resource farming. There's even a necklace that prevents your follower from sleeping, perfect for that farmer that needs to toil through the night to keep your crops in rotation. There's not a lot of diversity when it comes to the necklaces in the game, and as far as I can tell, getting them to drop is random, but they can make a serious impact on your following when used correctly. This next tip is more about mindset than anything else. You're going to spend a lot of time with your cult, so make sure you're maximizing everything to its fullest potential. If there's an upgrade you can be getting, you should be getting it. What I mean is simply this: don't leave any stone left unturned between runs. That means doing your sermon every day, keeping your devotion from capping out at your shrine, making sure your villagers are harvesting available resources, and always keeping the balance in check: faith, hunger, and sickness. The worst thing you can do is let a full day slip by without making serious improvements to your camp. And because there are so many little systems in the game, it can be easy to let one or two things slide, but those omissions start compounding, and before you know it, you can't keep up with the difficulty of a dungeon. One of the best things you can unlock is the ability to resurrect once after being killed. Some may call it cheap, others a lifeline to a second chance. The catch-22 here is that you need to sacrifice a follower in order to come back to life. And let me be clear, all followers are not made equal. If you've unlocked the wedding ritual, you might have decided to get married. Well, sadistic as it is, your partner makes the perfect sacrifice. Not only are you going to get more hearts, you're also going to get armor hearts, and if you're pushing bosses, trying to beat the game, this is huge. If you really want to capitalize on this, marry a follower that's young and build their loyalty. The younger they are, the higher their loyalty, the more hearts you get back when you res. It's a game changer, plain and simple, and one of the best tricks I've found to beating the game. Maybe I'm dumb, maybe I'm blind, or maybe it's a combination of the two. When visiting the fortune teller, notice there is a small display of cards off to the side. Until about 3/4 of the way through the game, I thought those were for decoration. Now on a whim, I happened to run up to them only to find that you can actually buy them. That's right, you can pick up a free tarot card as you normally would, but also purchase a second tarot card for a few gold coins. With what I shared before about those extra strength tarot cards, this should be a no-brainer. The catch is that you can't do this every time you run into a fortune teller. I think it's only once per dungeon, but hey, a few coins here for a potentially huge buff. I'll take that trade any day of the week. How about a quick tip for all you cult leaders out there? You can actually speed up the passage of time at night if you're tired of waiting around for the sun to rise. Using a controller, you can simply hold down the Y button to meditate, and this will speed up the time until morning, where the hustle and bustle of your cult will pick back up. The final tip has to do with the bishop statues that you'll occasionally run into during your dungeon diving. First off, did you know that you can interact with or smash these to collect devotion? Either method works, but it's the latter that interests me. When heading back into the dungeon after the bishops are dead, you'll notice these statues have red X's on them. Give them a few good whacks and you'll spawn a portal that will lead you straight to the boss. Now keep in mind, if you're out there collecting Eyes of the Witness, you'll need to kill the smaller bosses, the changed ones. But if you want a big old chest with some loot, feel free to take the portal and kill the bishop all over again. It was a fun little secret I found on a whim, just wanted to share. So there you have it, everything I wish I knew sooner about Massive Monster's brand new roguelite Cult of the Lamb. If you have a tip or trick you want to share, don't be shy, let us know in the comments and help spread some knowledge. Of course, if you found this video helpful or enjoyable, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. There are still plenty of games coming out in 2022, and if you're looking for a new take on some of the year's biggest titles, we've got you covered. I also want to let you know that our 2022 Leave a Legacy charity event is set for Saturday, October 22nd. For a second year in a row, we've partnered with Connecticut Children's to help bring the joy of gaming to kids at the hospital. So mark your calendars, set a reminder, and be sure to join us on Discord to stay up to date on everything regarding the event. The link, of course, is below. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.